Welcome to episode 156 of Nobody Special.
In this episode, we talk about Cardi B at the Grammys and guarding your heart and mind.
The Gospel Outpost presents Nobody Special. Hey everybody, welcome to Nobody Special, two Nobodies talking about the somebody who matters. I'm Danny, the host and Twitter feud specialist of Nobody Special.
And I'm Caleb, you're the host of Nobody Special. This is the podcast where two generations of people are looking to find God in pop culture, politics, and everything in between, all while not taking any of it too seriously.
Caleb, Falcon and the Winter Soldier is out today, and it was fantastic.
Yeah, was it?
Amazing.
You've seen it?
Amazing.
Wow.
Caleb, what was your favorite part? Because it definitely came out today.
I really like when he, was flying around and him and, the Winter Soldier were cracking jokes and making fun of each other. I thought that was really, that was great,
Oh, yeah. It totally built up their coming together. I actually thought the coolest part was when Doctor Strange came out and unkilled Natasha, Black Widow, just unkilled her.
Yeah, it was unfortunate because I don't like the character of Black Widow, so I was hoping she was just dead, and after the movie that she'd just be gone. But
it was a bit on the nose to have come out and gone, no, this is the real end game.
Yeah,
the real end game, the real one.
Yeah, and I think especially after the last WandaVision thing, like people, were really, they're just building into the MCU, they just really like to attach it to those movies.
So how did you feel about the Flash crossover? Because they're doing a multiverse thing too. So the Flash in there was like, what?
Yeah, I thought it was cool. I really wish they would have
gotten to it faster.
Oh God. Used the Flash from CW. Grant Gustin.
Yes.
But Ezra Miller's fine too.
Yeah, but instead they got the one from the 50s, which I thought was an interesting take.
Yeah.
This is a stupid bit. We tape on Thursday. We haven't seen this. We're excited though. I'm actually really excited about this one.
Yeah.
Disney's been doing a great job cranking out really good Marvel content. There's going to be a Marvel thing coming out every week this year.
Seriously?
Yeah, basically. Yeah, including the movies.
It's actually kind of a lot for
me. Right.
I was barely able to keep up with WandaVision. I still haven't finished Mandalorian.
That's not Marvel.
I know.
Okay, just want to be. Wait, you haven't finished Mandalorian?
I know. I'm sorry. All right.
That's gross. That's disgusting.
I'm sorry.
Because you're going to miss Gina Carano. There's someone who listens to our podcast
who can deep fake your face out of there.
He accuses me of being a total simp for Gina Carano. And I know I had that episode a few episodes back that I talked about Gina Carano and just how amazingly beautiful she is. And he has since called me a simp over and over. And I need to make one thing 100% clear. Absolutely. Like 100%. Yes, absolutely. Gina Carano, please come on the show. Is she married? Hold on. Did we already Google this? Gina Carano.
Danny.
To Henry Cavill? Oh, no. Okay.
Oh, I was like, wait, what?
But what? No, Gina Carano is not married yet, but open offer.
Wow.
Just kidding. Sorry.
She's 38 years old?
38, yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
Anyway, we're not going back to Gina Carano.
You like girls older than you, huh?
I like Gina Carano. We're not doing this. We've already done this in an episode. I'll never hear the end of, dude, you're a simp for Gina Carano, which I am, but I don't want to. I'm not trying to lean into that as a personality.
Yeah.
But no, I'm actually really excited for Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I think it's going to be fantastic. I'm super excited to see the place they're going.
I think so too. I think I'll like it way more than WandaVision because I don't know. It seems more tangible.
Yes, less witches. None witches, but less witches.
It's more straightforward, I guess is my point. WandaVision was just like every episode you're like, what's going on? Oh, and they give you bits and pieces every time, and it's just like I have no idea what's going on. By the end of it, I was like, I don't know what just happened.
We haven't had an opportunity to talk about that on the podcast. It was a risky show. I mean, especially how they started. They started in standard kind of a 4-3 kind of a framing. It was the square-ish framing, black and white, for 3 episodes, and no plot at all. There was none plot, and that it became the most viewed program, I think globally, was kind of exciting. I mean, it was a gamble because it's a weird premise. It's a weird program.
Was it a gamble?
Yeah, I actually thought it was a gamble for that. Well, they were trying new things. They started in the 50s, and then in the 60s, then the 70s, then the 80s, then the 90s, and then the plot just went crazy.
I wouldn't say it was a gamble. I think it was a cool idea. I think it was cool. I don't
but
think
it was a gamble to pull it off. I mean, because it's hard to pull off. No one wants to watch black and white.
It's not true.
Standard frame. I was like,
one of my favorite movies that was released in 2019 was, or 2020 was a black and white.
What
4-3,
movie?
The Lighthouse.
The Lighthouse?
With Robert Pattinson and what's his
Why
face?
did they shoot in 4-3?
Shot it on film because film people are just really fancy.
Oh my gosh, they did. What
really,
kind of movie is this?
It's like a psychological thriller. It's kind of crazy, and I think you'd like it. It's weird.
Okay,
it's weird.
We'll have to try that one.
It is real weird.
But still excited about Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Gosh, that I pulled up a really creepy image that we're just not gonna look at.
Wait, where?
Aubrey Plaza and Bill Murray.
Oh.
She's doing well. I think it's because Aubrey Plaza's eyes are fully open.
Oh yeah, I don't like that.
We'll throw that up in the episode just so we can all see it.
No, we won't.
We might throw it up. We have it in the notes. Maybe we'll see. But no, it's been a crazy few weeks, especially for Christianity. Caleb, tell me about this new discovery that they found.
Yeah, there was new biblical text found from that era, at least. I feel like it's confusing to call them biblical texts, but it kind of was-ish. Because it was like, from what I read, it was like from Zechariah, and it was like a different, I don't know, they were like worded some things different or something like that.
Yes, so the different manuscripts of the biblical text. So kind of a bit of really nerd history. So fast forward however minutes you want in this podcast until Caleb talks. But the kind of the first texts of Scripture, we probably don't have them and don't know where they are just because we wouldn't. And the way they disseminated out the information to people is by copying it. And every time they copied it, there's a chance that a comma could get tweaked or of that. But because it was a biblical, or it was a text of importance, they got copied a lot. And part of biblical interpretation is comparing all the copies to determine
the truest.
And it's
almost like finding the average of different copies.
Kind of. There's more of a science behind it, but it's still an art. Now, a lot of people can go through this and think, so our Bible is just guessing. That's actually not true. The kind of differences that are being debated are so small and so boring and so tiny. Yeah, that's just like, I don't care. Like
like literally what they were saying is the word is from chapter 8 verses 16 and 17 in Zechariah. And it was talking about, I think I have it pulled up on my phone still, actually. It would be nice for me to actually quote this. And it was saying, I'll just read it. These are the things that you shall do: speak the truth to one another, render in your gates judgments that are true, and make for peace. Do not devise evil in your hearts against one another. And love no false oath. For all these things I hate, declares the Lord. And obviously this is ESV, so it's different than that.
Right.
But
This is not
the
Hebrew
word,
from...
The word gates was actually translated by them into streets. So it's like minor differences where it like still means the same thing. And it's not like these huge... It's never talking about like salvation, where they're like...
Right. Like some people have gotten super into this kind of aspect of it, and they've kind of came to the conclusion that Christianity is false, because they've spent all their time talking about the differences between the texts, that they don't actually get into the things that they're all proclaiming to be the same. Jesus as Christ is 100% agreed upon in all the biblical texts. There aren't any that go like, well, maybe if this were moved over just a bit, it would be this. Like that's not the place that it is. But part of the task of the biblical interpreter is to be truthful to the original text, which is problematic because we don't have it. So it's a matter of going through, understanding which of and there's really big dumb books in it too about are the German copies actually reliable? And some of them, yes, and a few of them you can kind of discard because they were done in like 1300s Germany or something like that. I'm pulling that number out of my head. And people write very long, boring papers about this. For most people, the best conclusion is your Bible is reliable, with a few exceptions. If you're reading like the Passion Translation, it's not. But Danny, no, it's not. So anyway, it's cool though, because this gets into the archaeological evidence of Christianity, and gives it a weight that it can't confirm that it's true, but it can confirm that the things people stated back then, there's consistency among them, and that's worth taking into account.
And this is, I mean, it's cool too, because obviously the Dead Sea Scrolls were found in the 60s, right? And
I think
50s, 60s.
So
I think
biblical historian is so far out of my wheelhouse.
Since the Dead Sea Scrolls were found in 1947 in the early 50s. So 1947. This is the first time we've found scrolls since then. So it's kind of dope.
I mean, they found other stuff, but it's old. So a lot of it's decayed, and the thing they're talking about, they don't have complete intact things, and even if they do, opening them is kind of like, don't do that. They'll just crumble. Figure out how to...
I'm looking at this picture right here of this. We can put it on the screen. I'll do this one. And
okay.
I'll replace it.
We'll copy that one in.
And if you were to try and unravel this, it would disintegrate for sure.
Absolutely.
Into ash, basically.
So they have ways of opening them up, but if they get... massive chunks of text, it is a gold mine to a historian. They're like, we like this good. So they try and track those down.
Could you imagine being the one that gets to like translate that? That would be insane.
It's super hard.
I bet.
I mean, it's I
think one of the most interesting thing that like through all this that they were talking about in this article that I'm reading from Jerusalem Post, and that was also in the Dead Sea Scrolls, was these texts that they found were written in Greek, but they still kept the name of God. It was written in Hebrew.
Yes,
which I thought was like
that's fairly common.
That they said it was a common thing to just like translate the importance of his name. And I thought that was cool.
That was.
And that's even what we do nowadays. Like when we say God's name, like we're not like God. I mean, we do say God a lot, sure, but we say His name, and I think it's cool that it's passed down through all of these years.
No, they had a total honoring of the name of God, especially because of the Old Testament. They as a caution to not use the Lord's name in vain, they chose to not actually use it, which I feel is a slight overstepping of like, oh, that's not actually what he said. It's coming out of a place of honor, but there are still times to invoke the name of God that they just didn't.
Right.
And I always screw this up. The name Jehovah, yeah, that's not a real word. So, no, it's straight up not. It's not a word. So it takes the. Oh gosh, with this, I'm such a nerd.
Yes,
takes the tetragrammaton of Yahweh, the YHWH, and puts in the vowels out of Elohim, and it's Jehovah.
Yeah.
So they did that as a means to use the name of God, but still not get close enough that they could be accused of using it in vain.
Yeah.
So Jehovah's not a real word. I mean, it is now because that's how words work, but it's not a real word.
It's the biblical equivalent of gosh. Basically.
Or like GAWD. Come on, guys. We all know what that one is. No, I said GA. God. So, God dang it. Like, no, that's still the same thing. It's still the same thing, buddy. But no, yeah, part of this is exciting because they're not able to go and check like digital copies as all of us have today. They have to go back and check archaeology. They can't update them, so they have to check, these types of things. To us today, there's a fair amount of things.
That's a stressful job to like preserve stuff like that. I would.
Oh yeah.
I would not be good.
Yeah, but today, I mean, things are pretty easy to keep because they're digital, and even Twitter is being archived. There's a person who's like archiving all the tweets, which is terrifying. Just go ahead and archiving the tweets, all tweets. Select all, save. That's what this guy's doing. Anyway.
Wow. Okay. That's crazy.
Yeah. Like I wouldn't, but that's different. But
seems like a waste of time. But hey.
But a person doing that though, they would end up and have some pretty good Twitter feuds in there.
But like, wait, I know you're trying to transition out of this, but I was just
we were right there.
Just imagine how like crazy
right
people
there.
probably thought like they were back then from like keeping these. I mean, obviously not this. Obviously, they knew the importance of like these texts that they were copying down, but like all of these other things throughout history where it's like, bro, like why are you keeping all these papers, dude? Like. And we might look at that as crazy, but who knows? I don't know if God's timeline is coming back, but it could be another 200 years, and we're like, wow, what if this guy didn't archive all this stuff?
I think we're all hoping for the next 10. Like, call it,
Yeah. But anyways, try and do your transition. I'll give you round 2. Go.
Round 2. Round 1 was amazing. I really worked hard for that, and you took it from me.
He probably had some pretty good Twitter feuds in there. Sorry, that's not what you sound like.
Good grief. Okay. I don't want to talk about this anymore. We're now feuding, Caleb. You and I are feuding. Hey, speaking of feuds, there was a pretty good internet feud the other day between Candace Owens and Cardi B over Cardi B's performance at the Grammys. Yeah. How are we going from Dead Sea Scrolls to Cardi B twerking at the Grammys? I sometimes hate myself for how we pan the shows. So now a couple things happened. Do you know about the story, Caleb?
No, okay. I don't. So I'm going to rely on you to communicate everything that needs to be communicated.
Caleb and I, and I'm speaking on behalf of both of us at this point, we don't care about the Grammys, period.
Yes.
But also this year, we don't care about the Grammys because they snubbed The Weeknd. What kind of garbage was that?
Yeah.
Absolute garbage. He's
Go
still
listen
on
to
the
Save
charts.
Your Tears, all right? It's great.
Checking lyrics in my head. Yeah, you should be fine.
People know that if you're listening to a secular artist, you're not going to get safe lyrics. So
I'm just imagining. Oh, yeah, he's a secular artist. Let's be sure and say that.
Okay.
Christian podcast recommends The Weeknd. But one thing did come out of the Grammys that was worth talking about. Granted, talking about not condoning. Cardi B's act was overly sexualized and gross based on her grossly hit song WAP, which does not stand for worship and praise.
Yeah.
There was a story of a youth pastor who told his lead pastor that WAP stands for worship and praise.
That's
and
great.
So the lead pastor on Sunday, he said, "We need more WAP in this church." And everyone went, pardon me? And the youth pastor, he's just like, "Shut up, Gary. Look down at the floor. Look down at the floor." So anyway, Cardi B and Candace Owens have a history of calling each other out on Twitter, and it can
Who
get
is Candace Owens?
Candace Owens is a conservative commentator who has testified before Congress. She started the Blexit movement, or the Black Exit movement, out of the Democrat Party that actually got a fair amount of traction in 2020 to the point that Donald Trump got more African American votes than any other Republican candidate, I think, in the last 3 to 4 decades. So anyway, all this to say, Candace Owens, she's very smart, she's very tough, she's very outspoken, and has taken a job at Daily Wire with Ben Shapiro. So between the two of them, they will be speaking at 200 words per minute, and just keep going.
Let's be honest, 300.
Yeah, okay. Right. Just them together, like. But a Twitter feud broke out because, in a weird way, Candace Owens not enjoys Cardi's music, but understands the spot Cardi is in to be a positive impact on millions of people. So calls her out on the over sexualized and gross performance of, gosh, I can only say so much on this podcast, of 2 artists simulating sexual acts with one another on stage.
I've not seen this.
Yeah.
Nor do I want to.
I saw like a 3-second of the clip and went, nah, I'm good.
Yeah.
So a Twitter feud broke out as they're calling each other out, and Candace Owens, who I say rightfully thought the act, it was kind of gross, and called out Cardi B, who once admitted to drugging and taking advantage of a dude sexually, and then nothing happened. So it ended as Cardi B posted tweets, or doctored tweets of things Candace had, quote, actually said, when in reality Candace had not stated anything to the fact, and it would have stopped there, except it called into question the morals of Candace's brother, and so Candace said, like, hey, it's one thing to come after me, but you're coming after my family now, so you'll be hearing from my attorneys, because that's straight up libel for posting doctored tweets. So that's where we are on that.
Wow.
Yeah,
you can call attorneys for that? I'm confused.
Yeah, because it's a libel.
Libel? What does that mean? Liable or libel? What are you saying?
Libel. A libel. It's I'm posting fake things about a person to defame their character in public. It's slander, but in print, essentially.
Okay. Yeah.
And to take a tweet and doctor it to say this is the thing Candace said is a form of libel. So I don't know. I actually think Candace has some good points, though, that this whole thing is overly gross and sexualized. And I think this is a real problem in our culture today, is the over sexualized nature of entertainment.
Yeah, I think for sure. And I think that it's really, I mean, not even just an entertainment, it's just our world. I mean, let's be honest here. And I think it is infused in our culture. And it's even bleeding its way into Christian culture, right? For sure. Like it is impacting us, because I honestly believe that sexual sin and stuff like that is one of, I think it's just, it's easy to believe a lot of lies about it, and it's easy to, because it is a very like hormonal thing sometimes, it is easy to like just let things happen, and so I think that out of all the sins, I think that sexual sin is this thing that is just, I don't know. There's something about it that is special in a sense that
because
it impacts you a lot more. I think
Yeah.
the consequences it has are bigger than most other sins, and I think that when our culture is just like saying all of these things, and obviously when you're at the Grammys, one of the biggest music shows, and they're supporting
not this year.
things, yeah,
Its ratings tanked.
and it's I didn't even know it happened, to be honest.
Yeah.
But like when there's an act, and it's obviously, I mean, anyone who knows Cardi B knows it's just all very over sexualized, and
Right. But I mean, I guess that's part of the struggle I'm having as an old man and as a Christian.
old man.
As an
Sorry,
old man.
say that again.
Because I mean, the point of like music these days, it's too much sex, which sounds old manish, but honestly, the music these days, there's too much sex. I mean, I had a chance to preach on some of the problems in culture, and the age of exposure to these types of images, to normalize them, is getting younger and younger, and I don't think people understand the depth of the impact. I mean, average age of pornography exposure, just exposure, so granted the habit isn't built, but is anywhere between 11 and 7. Studies put that as the average, so that means there's a few on either end of that as far as average age of exposure. Now, all this is creating is questions in a brain that is unable to actually process the information it's getting.
Yeah.
Because a 7-year-old should not be sexualized, nor do they need to be picking their gender or their sexuality at the age of 7.
Yeah.
We barely let them pick their own clothes. Why do we think they should be able to make these types of decisions? But this has become a normative. In the same week of trying to cancel Pepe Le Pew because he's creepy, we to be fair, Pepe Le Pew is rapey. Like, I mean, can we say rapey?
Yeah,
he's a bit
rape
creepy.
is a word.
Well, I'm saying rapey. He is definitely creepy. That was bothering to me as I watched him growing up. Like, yeah, this is not okay what he's doing. Like, this is not okay. But to try and cancel the cartoon and then permit this, I think is so intellectually dishonest and manipulative to the culture.
Yes.
That it's unfair and is killing our children. But like, sure.
But I think it's such a fine line in their head, but it's not the same. Like these things when you promote them,
I'm doing it.
Like, that's honestly the problem. Like, you look at the marriage is just dying overall in America, and you look at
50% is divorce rate.
Yeah, and then people just want to have sex with whoever they want to, and also simultaneously, we're walking this fine line of consent that doesn't even really exist, because people can just make up whatever they want
and can take it back after the fact, which is not.
And
consent.
it goes both ways. People can make up whatever they want and attack and accuse whoever they want, and then that just also, diminishes the consequences we can give to the real, and I'm not like, and it's hard to tell even nowadays, it really is, but there's a lot of actual sexual trauma, and then there's made up stuff. I mean, it's just, be honest here, and you want to have this life where you have sex with whoever you want, and then you want to have this life where you're also simultaneously not raping people and stuff, and like, it just doesn't work,
right?
Because
if I turn sex into a transactional thing, then if I buy a person dinner, then this is the transaction. Yeah. And if I don't get the transaction, then I've been cheated out of my money. And all that it's doing is prostituting all females by treating in that manner, and a destroying actual manhood is being destroyed, because instead of being protectors, we've turned into the gimme monsters from children's books. We're a bunch of boys, not any men out there. So by creating this thing that it's transactional, it's become a thing I'm entitled to, instead of a thing that is intended to be enjoyed between a man and women that are married to the glory of God.
Right.
And it's becoming normalized, and that our children are starting to think that this is just the thing that they do at this age, and that is the most damaging part of this whole thing. And a Grammy's influence, all this, the influence that's being told to them is being crammed down their throat, and they're unable to actually process the information they're seeing.
Right. Yeah. And I don't really know, as far as music goes, I think that all of those types of artists and stuff are definitely towards the younger crowd. I don't know many people my age or older than me that listen to that type of music. I think that there's definitely like sexualized music that people my age and older than I like that we listen to, but no one's actually like truthfully listening to Cardi B or there are people. I'm speaking at generalizations here, but or all these different rappers and stuff, like it's just not as common, and it is common, but it's very, very common in young people in middle school, high school, elementary school, like and that's what's crazy about it, is that like I think especially, I can look back to my time in high school, and I'm sure you can too, where you have all the hormones in the world and sex is all you think about. And so why wouldn't you want to listen to music, that's being catered to you?
See, but it was never this bad though. To be honest, it was never this bad.
That's what I'm saying. And that's why it's bad, is because younger people are going to flock to stuff like this. And
this album is now the number one album for the longest amount of time. Like album by a rapper. It's been on the Billboard charts longer than any other, and I think that's part of the issue, is that there are plenty of people that actually are indulging in this, and they're choosing to say this is a thing I'm okay with because it speaks to this primal flesh type of a nature that I hold, instead of actually taking a stand and not getting it. There were plenty of, gosh, I don't know how to say this. I was a teenager at a point, but I didn't often prime the well for that, I guess. That sounds way gross than I mean to. Like I didn't indulge in overly sexual type of music or any of that, and I think that's one of the things that made it easier to not give in to the temptation, because I didn't indulge in the things. Now, granted, that's not true for a lot of my other friends, but that wasn't a thing I was super tempted to do because I understood the biblical stance behind it.
Right.
That sounds as if I'm like, I'm better than everyone. I screwed up in other ways. Don't worry.
I think everybody knows, especially Christians, like, because Christians are hyper aware of what is impacting them spiritually, physically, mentally.
Are they?
I would say more so than the normal, like, than people who don't know Christ, because they're not. Yeah, well, they're trying to act on, like, improve themselves, sure, but like everyone is. But I'm saying when it comes to stuff like this, I know that if I listen to music like this, like, it's not going to affect me in a good way over time. Right, absolutely. Because I'm hyper aware of that because of Christ, like. But I would say someone who isn't, like, it's just like easier to just listen to stuff or watch stuff. And
sure, but this is a problem you and I talked about a few weeks back, like off cam, that the differences, especially in topics of sex, the differences between Christians and non-Christians are honestly pretty minuscule. That there's plenty of things that Christians are engaging in a statistical manner, not an anecdotal manner. That like my friend Gary, but. It's a thing that plenty of Christians are just not trusting God in at all.
Exactly, but that's kind of my point, is that we know we aren't, though, and anyone who says they don't is lying. You know, like as a Christian.
Okay, yeah, I see
You know
what
what
you
I
mean.
mean? Like, so because it's just normal. It's a normal thing for culture. Like, so if you're truly 100% bought into culture, then of course you're just gonna go along with the flow of it. But like Christians who will, I mean, obviously we talked about it. Like 100% are actively indulging in stuff like that. But
Sorry,
I think the difference is
not
that they're
100%
just
are actively indulging in that.
No,
Those
I'm
were two
saying,
different sentences. Like
yeah.
100% I agree.
yes. 100%
People
I
are
agree.
indulging
Yes.
in that. Thank you.
100% of Christians.
100% of Christians. I
Not
love those
99.9.
'cause one person screws up your whole stat.
Yeah.
It's like, me! You know, someone bursts through the door. Me!
Yeah.
I am the one!
But a lot of Christians do indulge, and that's where I would say the difference is that we are just more aware of it.
So I think trying to say, as Christians, should we be angry at the Grammys and in the performance? That's a softball easy question, because yes and duh. Like no one's gonna say, well, maybe we should. No, we should be outraged.
I mean, I wouldn't say we should be outraged.
Yeah, well, like
Because at
it's
the
just
same
an easy
time,
question. You know
I'm
what
not
I mean? Like,
surprised. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And I think that there's a response of anger is not good, but I would say like
I 100% think anger is fine.
I think it depends on who you're directing it towards.
Yes, absolutely, but anger is totally acceptable in this case.
Yeah. I mean, I think that I like to. I'd say it's safer to not lean on the side of anger because I feel like it can just lead to unhealthy things. But I would say that like there should be a level of frustration and like an awareness of how toxic this is for people. Like it goes both ways. A, for Christians, and B, just for everyone. You know, and that's what's frustrating about it is because like although like I can look at the culture and I can look at the people who are bought into it and that think this is great and fine, and I can look at them and be like, oh, they're in that, you know, they're just that's their problem, you know. But like I think that's where we as Christians need to have a different mindset is like in the fact that like we should feel sorry because I mean, we want people to know. I realize now I make a lot of A and B things. I like to count off my
Sometimes you make A things, yeah.
A, B, C.
Sometimes we get to B. Go ahead.
But I'm saying I think a lot of it would be easy for us to just like be dismissive and be like, oh, that's their problem. But I think we should be more aware and like want better for people even if they aren't
but
following Christ.
I think anger is completely appropriate here. But the thing that you mentioned is the good qualifier though, is angry at what? It's get angry at the right thing, but anger is 100% appropriate. And I think not to the point. I mean, Jesus goes into the temple, starts throwing tables, or I'm not going to be the guy that tells Jesus like, yeah, you might want to scale back a little bit.
Let me clarify what I mean, because I think that I've just seen this a lot. I think that anger, I believe that anger is fine. You just need to watch it carefully, because I know for myself and for a lot of other people, even if it's righteous anger at first, it can quickly turn into not.
Absolutely.
So I think like, sure, be angry, but then calm down and like get to work.
Anger's a tool too. I mean, a hammer is there to put in nails. I don't take the hammer and try and make it a screwdriver. Anger has a place and a purpose, absolutely, because it fuels passion to a good thing. But I'm not even be angry enough to pray, to give the culture to God, to do those things, to pray that things change. Don't be, I mean, don't do the thing like, well, I'm just gonna send Cardi an email, tell her she's gonna go to hell. Like, don't be that guy. That's that guy. No one likes that guy, and it doesn't actually help. But to say, is this a good thing or a bad thing? That's a softball question.
Yeah,
yes
it's bad.
and duh.
Right.
But it does bring up an opportunity to actually talk about the stuff on our end that we pump into our heads. Because to be honest, a lot of us aren't that much different.
Yep.
Especially in kind of the thing we were talking about, that the cultural pressure of Christianity isn't. It is pretty great, and Christians are indulging in things because they've primed the well, and
Right.
they've put in a thought in order to bring out a more of the same thought. It's actual kind of the place that comes out of is priming an actual well. If I'm trying to drill down and get a well of a water, you actually have to give it a water in order to produce more. I'm explaining it horribly, but I've done it, that I can have a well tip down there, and just by pouring in a bit, it understands like, okay, now water comes out of it in abundance beyond that. And if I prime to good things, then good things come out of that, because that's the thing being fed.
Right.
But I think a good part of that comes out of Colossians chapter 3, verses 1-4. Do you want to give that a read for us?
Yep. Since then you have been raised with Christ. Set your hearts on things above, where Christ is, seated at the right hand of God. Set your minds on things above, not on earthly things. For you died, and your life is now hidden with Christ in God. When Christ, who is your life, appears, then you also will appear with him in glory.
So I think the big part of this is that our that old person that actually indulges in those types of things and things of the flesh, that primes the well to things that are not of God, that person is dead. And to be honest, that person, they'd been dead on arrival, that they're going to die in a manner, period. There isn't a thing that we can do that they aren't going to die. They're going to die, and I'm either going to be in Christ or I'm not. In an eternal kind of aspect, that person is dead. Let that person die then. And if I keep going back to the older things, the things of the flesh, then it just speaks that I don't actually trust God in this area.
Right.
If there isn't a difference between me and a non-Christian, then it's probable that I'm just not trusting God in this place. And too many Christians have claimed, I gave my heart to Christ, but you haven't. Because there's been no change that Christ is actually king, that the old isn't dead, it's still there, or I'm still feeding it, I guess is a better way to put it.
Which I know what you're saying, and I think it sounded like you were saying people aren't saved, so I'm just going to clarify that really quick. Like, sure.
Maybe.
I mean, that's sure. But, like, I think it's more helpful to say, like, there are things, like, what are you not trusting God with, and how can you, because obviously you can, I believe you can be saved, and it takes time for fruit to show, you know, like, and
sure.
So, like, what are you not trusting God with, and like, how can you be sanctified in that?
Sure. I've had a lot of conversations personally of, I'm a Christian because I prayed that prayer that one time, and I'm like, there's no evidence of faith. And it's not that they've been a Christian for 3 minutes, because I'm very gracious towards, baby Christians, because they're baby Christians, but I'm talking decades, and it's like, no, I prayed a prayer, I was 8 or 5, so I'm good. I'm like, no, you're not.
Yeah.
Because there's been no transformation, no change that's actually occurred.
Yeah.
And there is I guess to a few people, I am kind of asking, it's like, are you actually saved? But to those that know they are, then stop trying to feed the dead person.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, because I mean, I think it's a lot of people like that. They want, like, kind of the get out of hell card.
Yeah.
And it's actually very interesting. One of my students actually last night surrendered his life to Christ, which was amazing.
Awesome.
But it was a very like, scary, in the sense that, like he was in my mind like one of the most best, like our like best kids, and
Right.
always answered the questions spot on theology, like he knew everything, all of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then like he surrendered his life to Christ. I'm like, that's scary, because like, I mean, he admitted, he's like, I never followed, I never became a Christian or was truly saved because I just wanted to not go to hell.
Right.
And what he realized is that
that's not enough.
I need a relation. The point of Christianity is to have a relationship with Jesus.
Right.
And I'm not going to be changed unless I have a relationship with Jesus, because it's, you can't be more like him if you don't know who he is. And that's what he realized. And that's kind of very similar to my testimony. I think it's very common, like you said, for like people growing up in church, that you're like, oh, I'm 7. Cool.
I prayed a prayer when I was 4. So
and now I'm
good.
not going to hell, and I don't have to ever,
Yeah.
But like, I think that's a great point, because we need to be actively in a relationship with Jesus. We do. And
to stop trying to feed the dead guy. I mean, that's a big point, especially in verse 3. It says, because you died. Our reasoning for putting our mind on things that are above, not on things of the earth, is because you died.
Yeah.
You didn't make it out okay.
Right.
Died as in not dying, dead.
Yeah.
And those things of the earth, to be honest, are the things that did them.
Yeah.
So if we've been given a gift of our life is in Christ, why go back to the thing that killed us? Like, why go back to the thing that is so destructive to our well-being that it caused death?
Yeah. And I think for me, in times where I examine myself, in those times where I just want to live in the flesh, like, I think the answer to that for me is commonly, whether it's something, big or small, like, I think music is actually a big thing for me. Like, I would love, and I really enjoy it. Like, I think my secular artist is Kendrick Lamar, and there's some of the songs that are, I mean, obviously they're just like kind of angry and have, definitely sex things in them. And, and I think that, like, I look at that, and, I think there's times where I'm deciding in the morning, I hop in my car to drive wherever I'm going, and I'm like, do I really want to put on some, like, music that is not so great for me, or do I want to, like, put on some worship? I think, like, this is obviously just a very small example of this, but, like, it's satisfying to listen to old stuff, because I mean, I think it's fun. I think that's the thing that people need to understand, is
we would have
sin
stopped if it were terrible.
Yeah, sin is fun. It feels great. But I think what I commonly realize, getting back to my point, is that when I look at things like listening to worship music, like feeding myself spiritually, reading my Bible in community, it takes, it needs to become a habit. And it's going to be like, I typically, like, my argument to myself is like, oh, it doesn't, like, it's as simple as, it doesn't feel good right now, so I'm gonna wait until tomorrow to start doing that, or something like that, or the next time I hop in the car, I'll put on worship music.
Super not how disciplines work.
Right. And that's it right there. Like, it takes discipline, and I think that is why we continually like to feed our flesh, because it's easy and it feels good, but it feels better to receive the fruits of the Spirit when we are actively disciplined in them. I mean, you're teaching a freaking class on that right now. But, like, that's straight up what it is I think it's convenience over a part of the questions, as I've been
I'm teaching class in spiritual disciplines, part of the two questions that keeps coming up are, do I actually trust God, and what person is getting the glory in this?
Mm-hmm.
If I'm trusting God, then that means I trust God even though I may disagree. And I think that's the big part that a fair amount of Christians think they have to give their intellectual consent to agreeing to God. You don't. Nor is God waiting on it. It's like, oh, I hope he agrees I'm king. No, he's already king. Doesn't matter. God doesn't need you. God wants a you, but doesn't need you. And
that's an interesting.
I think that's a big difference. Is I don't make God king. God just is king.
Mm-hmm.
And if God is king and a good king, and I'm trusting God, then there are plenty of things I do, not because I understand or even agree, but because God is king. And and that means I do have to take an honest thought at the places I put my time, the things I think about, the movies I go to, the music I pay attention to, all these kinds of things I have to be honest about. Is this a thing that is encouraging me to grow in the new person that Christ made me to be, or is this me trying to feed the dead guy?
Mm-hmm.
And we don't enjoy asking that because the answer usually sucks.
Yeah.
Because to be honest about it, it means that you have to go, if I come to the conclusion this is bad, I know I have to just give it up.
Right.
But the question is still going to come back to, do you trust God in this, and who gets the glory?
Yeah. I mean, it's straight up. And I think that, like, yeah, that's why it's so difficult, is that, I mean, I think it's really just a almost like the marshmallow test in a way. Do you know what that is?
Oh yeah. I think I taught you the marshmallow test.
Yeah, maybe, probably.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite psychological experiments.
And I think that's what we as Christians deal with every day.
Mm-hmm.
is do I take temporary satisfaction that isn't going to be as good as eternal satisfaction? Right. And that's what it is, because putting in the discipline takes a lot of time, but I know, because I've tasted and seen that the Lord is good, that if I discipline and if I give him the glory, that is what we as humans are created to do. Right. And that there is not even satisfaction is like the proper way. It's just like, it's connecting to your freaking purpose, like, and you feel a lot of things, and it's way better than your freaking little marshmallow that you get.
I've compared it to choosing between Gordon Ramsay or Ronald McDonald, and too many of us are choosing Ronald McDonald when Gordon Ramsay is offering us the gift of his food. It's like, yeah, but I've had the McDonald's cheeseburger before, and I'm more comfortable with it. Like, yeah, but homie, take the better food. Like, take the better thing. And to us, that's the same as the kind of the glory of God of take the better food. Yeah. Don't trade the old because it tries to feed the dead guy if there's a new and better thing being offered. And I think the encouragement is to us as Christians to be honest about the things our time is going to, the things our energy is going to, all these things, in order that God can be glorified, because that is in our best interest. That God is a good God that's not trying to, like, I'll take all their fun from them, but you can't listen to fun music. Instead, it's hey, this is killing you because it's not the way I created the world to be. So cut it out. Yeah. So, yeah.
And it is, I mean, it's interesting because I think that there's a time and a place for some things that are more secular than others, if that makes sense, where it's almost like what we were talking about earlier with The Weeknd, where, like, it's hard for me to recommend him to everyone because I don't know where they are spiritually in their life. Right. And I think that it genuinely depends on where you are mentally and spiritually. Are you able to listen or watch stuff? Right. Like, because I don't think it's always bad But like if you know you're in a vulnerable place where you're not speaking truth into your life, and you're not listening to God and you're not obeying him and you're not glorifying him, like then it's times where I'm like, maybe I shouldn't watch this movie tonight,
But I struggle to find a good place for WAP.
Yeah. Yeah, no. That okay,
Like,
yeah. I'm talking about some stuff.
There is a
like
too
there's
far.
a line.
Yeah.
Yes, of course. Yes, I
like when
100% agree.
I think if I was emotionally and spiritually mature enough to handle it, I just wouldn't go to it in the first place.
Right. And I think that
I could watch this, no impact.
I think
probably means I
all-
won't watch it.
we all have that discernment in us on like there are some things where you're like,
Right.
I just shouldn't watch this.
Right.
Or I just shouldn't listen
Right.
to this. Like it's genuinely there's
Right.
nothing beneficial about
There's nothing
it.
glorifying about this act.
But like yeah. So I mean
So the official stance of Nobody Special on a WAP, just to be sure we're clear, is gross.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
no, I agree. I think this goes back to some earlier conversations about just like artistic expression and this kind of stuff and understanding mankind as a means to glorify God. Yes, absolutely. Just not WAP.
Yeah.
Can't,
Like I think
can
that
do.
I can trust that everyone has the discernment to realize what stuff is too far, just in and of itself, and what stuff isn't.
And as a cynic, I do not trust the people have that ability, and even
I think
doubt
that
it
people
within myself
know,
the most.
I think people can play dumb intentionally, for sure.
Yeah,
But yeah, I would say most people know. Oh,
those are conversations for another day on that. Do people actually know? Sometimes, yeah.
yeah.
So, well, we want to hear from you guys. How is your media intake for music, movies, and all that? Do you think it is better to be a more God honoring? Wow, that's a really dumb question. Is it better to be more God honoring? How does that affect your spiritual day to day by the stuff that you indulge in? I feel like the wording of that, I'm assuming an answer, but we'll just see what you guys got. So if there are answers to that, there are a few places that we can get those answers and maybe talk about them on air. The first
You can
is
go to thegospelofpost.com/nobody special.
I'm going out.
Hey, I just wanted to help you out, Danny. All right. I just wanted to take something off your plate.
Okay, fine, I'm back in. And if you're watching our YouTube version, you now know that I record these in pajama pants because whoops.
Whoopsie daisies.
Sorry. Caleb, where can they go?
Do you want to say it? I'll let you say it if you want to say it.
I don't even know where we are anymore.
You can go to thegospelpost.com/nobody special, and you can find a form there where you can ask us questions or say hello. We'd love to hear from you guys. You can also go to
Facebook and Instagram at Nobody Special Podcast and slide right into our DMs. That's why you don't let me do it. That's it.
Yep.
Oh, I forgot. Okay.
And then also YouTube. You can find us there under the Gospel Outpost. It's the channel.
Like, comment, subscribe, turn on notifications.
It's also another way to reach us. So yeah. Those
are all things you have to do for YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe, turn on notifications. Anyway, we appreciate all the people who tell other people about our show. We are immensely cheap and not taking our stimulus money for
Danny
advertising.
is. Let me just make a
we both are. Let's be honest. We're both kind of cheap. But our show spreads by word of mouth. So anytime anybody tells other people about the show, we are so thankful to all the people that have done that.
Yes.
So thank you so much. You know who you are.
That's kind of scary for some reason. I don't know why that sounded real shady.
You know who you are. Gosh, sorry. That was worse than I meant it to be. So, well, Caleb, I think that
we're going to end on that
We're going to end on that. How should we end?
Jesus loves you a lot, and he died for you on the cross for your sins so that you may be imputed with his righteousness.
I'm feeling really unholy for wanting to end on a gaffe now, so we'll just end with that. So, well, Caleb, that's a great ending. Jesus is somebody special, but that's going to do it for us today. So I'm Danny.
And I'm Caleb.
And we are
Nobody special.